She told me specific dates about my life, like, you're going to find your husband in 2025. And I was like, so, like, should I not even look in 2024? Or, like, what are you saying? Like, I'm just going to meet him in 2025? Am I going to marry him in 2025? Like, what? Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Vulnerable. I am your host, Chelsea Vaughn, and today I want to tell you guys about this psychic reading that I had because I posted about it and everyone was freaking out and was like, oh my God, send me her info. What happened? Tell me. Da, 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 da. And it was just so interesting and I literally can't stop thinking about it. So I need to share. And I was going to do like a story time or a get ready with me or something. But I feel like I need more time to explain to you guys everything that happened. So my manager is like totally into psychics and readings and birth chart and all that and astrology. And I think it was like over a year ago, she sent me a contact information for somebody that she had a reading from. And I kept meaning to reach out and then I like halfway scheduled it and then blah, 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 blah. And I never did it. And as I've said, I was bored at my house over the holidays. And I was like, okay, this is now finally the time to do it. And I'm sure you guys want to know how much it cost. So I'll tell you. It was $111, but I didn't realize she was in Canada. So they were Canadian dollars. So it was only $85 for over an hour. Like we were on Zoom for like an hour and 20 minutes. And I feel like that's a steal. Like I feel like in New York, if you walk up to a random ass psychic on the street, they're charging you like $40 for a palm reading. Like I've paid more for a lot less. So I was like, okay, this is pretty legit. And she starts off by asking literally just your birthday, where you're born, like specifically the city, and what time, so she can pull up your whole chart. And this is based on Chinese astrology, which I know nothing about. So like it has nothing to do with Western astrology that you're thinking of, like me being a Virgo, an earth sign, whatever. Totally different. They have a completely different system where you're assigned an animal based on your birth year. And mine is the water monkey because I was born in 1992. So when she first starts the reading, she's like, oh, you have a lot of water in your chart. And I was like, no, I don't, because I've looked at my chart, the Western one, and I don't have a lot of water. And she was like, oh, no, this is totally different, like totally different thing. So I was like, okay, now I'm going in blind because I don't know anything about Chinese astrology or what she's about to tell me. So she starts off by just like looking at the whole chart and telling me like what's coming up in the next year or like what are common themes that are going on in my life right now. And she's going through and saying like, oh, I see a fame start here. That means you're going to be famous for what you accomplish. Let me just say, before you guys already come for me with the, oh my God, she's fake. I gave her a different name. Like I reached out to this woman under a different name from a different email address. She does not know who Chelsea Vaughn is. I'm not Googleable on this other name. And obviously my birth information was correct, but you can't find that on Google. So she doesn't know who I am. Like I am just a random person who's scheduled online to her. So I feel like I just needed to clear that up because I feel like if I was listening to this, I'd be like, duh, she's going to say like, wow, I could see you on TV shows. You should be a model. So she didn't know anything about me. And she was going through and saying like, I can tell right now, like it's really important for you to find a life partner. Like that's big on your list. And it's like, again, duh, like I'm in my early 30s. I'm single. Like you could say that about anyone. But the main takeaways were that I don't even know where to start because she told me so many things. And she literally told me specific dates, which I don't know if I was expecting or not expecting, but I think in theory, you're like, oh my God, if I could see a psychic and they could tell me exactly when things are going to happen in my life, I would love to hear that. But in reality, it's kind of difficult to swallow because obviously I'm taking all this with a grain of salt. She could be full of shit. We really won't know until 2025. But she told me specific dates about my life, like you're going to find your husband in 2025. And I was like, so like, should I not even look in 2024? Like, what are you saying? Like, I'm just going to meet him in 2025. Am I going to marry him in 2025? Like, what? She literally like looked at me and was like, how do you feel if I tell you it's not happening this year? And I was like, that's okay. Like, as long as what I'm waiting for is worth the wait, I'm okay. If it doesn't happen in 2024, I'm still young. It's fine. And she's like, yeah, it's going to be 2025 likely. And I was like, okay. And then she was like, yeah, and I don't know how you feel about children, if you're planning on having children, but it looks like it's very likely you'll have a child in 2026. I was like, I am shook. But she's also realistic because she was like, look, this is based on Chinese astrology from like back in the day. And she's like, now birth control, like obviously you don't have to have a kid in 2026 unless you want to. So based on when I put my IUD in, there will be no children popping out until at least 2029, unless I decide to take it out. But maybe I will for this husband I'm meeting in 2025. I don't know. But I was just shocked. And she told me that in order to be successful in life, more successful, I need to go back to school. And that it's very important for me to have a higher level of education that's like not just like some trade school or whatever. Like she was like, I need to get a graduate degree or a PhD. And I was like, I have not thought about school in years. Like, I don't even know what I would do, what I would go back for, what. And she said it was like a five-ish year program. And I'm like, the only things that take that long are law school, med school. I don't even know what else. But she was 10 toes down on this. Like, if there was anything from this reading that she was absolutely sure about, it was that I had to go to school, because she said, in my future, I'm meant to be surrounded by wealth and nice things. Hear me out. This is not super shallow. Because I'm supposed to help people that are less fortunate. So she was like, you have to be in social circles and be around people that have money and be one of those people, because you're meant to do something that helps people in the future and you have to have money to do it. So I was like, okay, that's nice to hear. Like, cool. I would love to help people. And she was like, if you don't do it, you run the risk of just being somebody's trophy wife, because you're going to be around all these people that you can't keep up with. And they're not going to take your intellect seriously because you don't have a piece of paper to back it up. And I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, even if you don't like do what you went to school for, it doesn't matter. You need to just have the legitimacy. So I've been pondering that for a week since this reading, because I really haven't even thought about school. I'm still trying to pay off my loans from undergrad. I don't even know what I would do. But she was like, yeah, my message is a little bit too early. Around this time next year, you'll understand more why I'm saying this. And like things will make more sense to you. And I was like, okay, cool. Back to the love life. Because obviously I'm like, ooh, that's what I want to know about. It's juicy. She said that there's a good chance I'm marrying someone famous. And she also said there's cheating in the cards. Cheating, guys. I'm going to get cheated on. I was like, wait, what? I don't want to hear that. That's horrible. And she was like, it might not be them. It might be you. And I was like, I don't have a cheating bone in my body. Like, I'm not a cheating girl. I'm very loyal. I'm very, like, I don't know. But she basically said that I have a bad tendency. This is true. Like this session turned into therapy, because she was like, you have a bad tendency in relationship of picking out people's flaws and like highlighting people's flaws and picking people apart. And she was like, you can't do that. You have to actually accept people for who they are. And you can't just point out all their faults. She ate with that. I absolutely do that for sure. It's not something I'm proud of. I don't want to do it. Where I come from with that is like, it's coming from a place of love for me. Like, I want to help you be better. So it's not like I'm like telling people they suck at this, and this, but it's like, I am super critical and I do it out of love, because I'm like, I want to criticize you so that you can improve, which is the same reason I criticize myself. Like, I'm like, I want to be better. So like, I pick out all these little things that I could be better at. Apparently that's not good for relationships. But yeah, the point was, she was like, you're picking out people's flaws and you're judging people, and you need to stop being such a harsh judge because you're going to end up in a situation where you might be open to cheating, basically. And she was like, you're going to realize you shouldn't be so judgmental because it could happen to you. And I was like, oh my God, that's horrible. That was like the only negative thing I think that she said in the whole reading. I guess not necessarily negative, just maybe some self-work I need to do. She's like, do the work. I'm like, okay, great. Yeah. She also said that my children were going to be very beautiful if I choose to have children. I'm like, okay, cool. And that I'm having a sexual awakening. This is the best part, guys. Sexual awakening and the best sex of my life in 2026. And I'm like, is that with this husband that I'm meeting in 2025? Like, what does that even mean? Am I just gonna have the best sex of my life with someone that I'm cheating on my husband with? Like, crazy. I'm really in the middle with all of this because half of me is like, I do believe there are people out in the world that can tell you things about the future that aren't able to be explained. Like, I do believe there are things in the universe that can't be explained, period. And I'm sure some of these people are around. However, I don't know if it's psychics that you're reaching out for to set up a Google Calendar invite to pay, like, for a reading, you know? Like, I'm so split on believing and not believing, but I think I maybe lean a little bit more towards believing, but I've never had an in-depth birth chart reading before. I thought she was gonna, and she did tell me things based on my birth chart, because I think in Chinese astrology, it's like heavily based on like when you were born. They say like your destiny's written, like done in the stars. It's a wrap. Everything's written out, period. You can't change it. And so that's like what she was operating off of. She also mentioned things about my ex, which were interesting and accurate. She only had his date of birth. Like, she didn't have anything, nothing. I didn't even tell her the time, the place, nothing about him. I literally gave her a date and she told me things that were true. And she was like, yeah, it either like, I can tell by looking at my chart. She's like, I can tell you either like there's something unfinished, like there's something lingering. She's like, you either are still talking to someone, like you just went through a breakup, or like something's going on. And I was like, yeah, I went through a breakup. She asked for his birthday and then she told me things. Obviously, I'm not going to share those things with you guys, but I'm just going to tell you they were true, which made me believe things she was saying. And for the first half of this reading, I was being very tight-lipped. Like, I was still skeptical and I didn't want to tell her things so that she could like further lean into what I told her and then tell me things. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted her to just straight up start talking, and I was just quiet for half an hour. I just let her talk. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to tell her anything about me and see if she's right before I start telling her stuff. Yeah. And then one thing she said that absolutely totally freaked me out that I think I will think about for the next 6 years is she was telling me like that I'm meant to have a lot of money so I can help people that are less fortunate, yada, yada. And she was like, yeah, you're meant to help people that have like more struggles in their life because you don't have a lot of struggles in your life. And then she paused and said, well, you have some. And I was like, what are they? And she said, well, how's your relationship with your mother? And I was like, it's good. Why? And she's like, there's some things there that are going to cause you trauma. I was like, what the fuck? You can't just drop a trauma bomb on me in the middle of this reading. Like, she was just so matter of fact that it's like scary. And then I'm like, okay, well, I have a good relationship with my mom. So what could possibly happen that would cause me trauma besides my mom dying? Like, I really feel like she told me like, your mom's going to die and that's going to be traumatic for you. Obviously, she didn't say that. She didn't say that. That's what I heard. But she literally said, yeah, there's going to be something there. It's going to cause you a lot of trauma, but let's just focus on the next year because that's not going to happen for 6 years. And I'm like, oh my God. Guys, if I meet my husband in 2025 and I have a baby in 2026, you better believe I'm not leaving my mom's side in 2029 because I feel like this woman's gonna die. Like, I really was like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking about that. I really am like, that's one thing that I'm like, I wish I didn't hear. Like, I wish I didn't hear that one. Because if things start coming true that she said, I'm scared. Because I can't think of anything else that could be traumatic unless she's not my real mom, which that's not true. She is. And I look exactly like my father. Like, you guys haven't seen my dad, but our faces are copy paste. So I really just don't know what else it could be. But I'm just so interested to know if you guys would want to know exact dates about your life. Like, I think before I had this reading, I would have been like, absolutely, tell me what's going to happen in the future. Because you can either listen to it or not, but it influences the way you think and make decisions. So I heard this whole reading, and yes, I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but before this reading, was I thinking at all about going back to school? Nope. So like having this reading might have just changed my life and made me go back to school, which isn't a bad thing at all. But it's just like, it has it's influencing my decisions. So yeah, I'm speechless. Like I can't stop thinking about it. And then I'm like, well, and everyone's messaging me like, oh my God, what's her contact info? I want to have a reading done. All my friends are like, send me her stuff. And I'm like, guys, we need to wait until 2025 because I don't know if she's full of it or not. Like, I really don't know. And then now I'm starting to date. Like, I'm like looking and I'm like, am I going into dating now thinking like, well, none of these are going to be my husband, so I might as well just fuck around. Like, I don't know if I'm regretful. Like, as a whole, the reading was very positive. Like, she was like, this is a very good chart. You have a very good life. You have good things coming to you. I don't know what the exact like terminology is for Chinese astrology, but she kept mentioning like stars that were on my path or whatever. And she said that I had a carefree star and that she's only ever seen one of those in all of her readings in all of her life before, one other person and me. And I was like, what does that mean? And she was basically like, you're meant to be carefree in your life. Like, you're meant to have a carefree life without a lot of responsibilities. And I was like, but that doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm an adult in the world. You have responsibilities, period. And she's like, I was like, everyone has responsibilities. And she's like, yeah, everyone does, but you don't. And she was like, I spend so much time like giving people readings and telling people about all the things they have to do and things they must do and responsibilities they have in their life. And she's like, and you don't. So this was just like a really fun reading for me to do because I don't have to do any of that. Like, you're just meant to be carefree and live your life and things work out for you. And I was like, that's cute. Like, I would love for that to be true. I would love to be a carefree person. I'm not. But maybe I should start. Like, I was pretty, no, I was going to say it. I just can't see. It's hard for me to believe a lot of it. But then here I am doing a whole podcast episode about it because it shook me to my core, guys. Yeah. So stay tuned. Strap in, guys. If I meet my man in 2025, we'll know she's legit. And I will blast her contact info for all of you, everyone in the world to have. I will give her all the business she needs for the rest of her life if what she said is true. But I will say, the only other time I had like it wasn't really in depth, but another reading done was I did a brand deal with Amazon. This was like Halloween 2021, I think. I did a brand deal and it was for Amazon Explorer, and they had these experiences that you can book online. It just sounds like an ad. It was an ad then. It's not an ad now. You had these experiences that you could book, and I was booking one to promote this for my story. Cool. So I decided to book a psychic, and she was in the Czech Republic. Dead ass. I literally like had a FaceTime with this woman in the Czech Republic. And I wrote down everything that she told me in a note. And I was like, okay, cool. Again, take it with a grain of salt. But she didn't give me dates. It was all very vague, like time periods. She would be like, you're going to have a significant relationship. It's going to remind you of like one of your previous relationships where you felt like treated really well and blah, 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 blah. And it's going to come like in the next 6 months, or she'd be like spring, like something like that. And I looked back at this note and everything this woman told me was true. It all happened. I had this reading in 2021 and she was right. So I don't know. I will never find that woman again though. Her, I don't know her contact information. I don't know anything about her. I booked her through like Amazon, but the one reading I had, pretty true so far. I'm trying to see if I still have this note because now I want to see what else was on it. But basically, she low-key predicted my relationship with Austin and when it was coming. And that was true. And then the podcast. She told me I would be good at hosting. This is before I had a podcast. And yes, my manager also was like, you should have a podcast. You're good at hosting. My friends were like, you should have a podcast. But this psychic told me this. And now I have, so the one I just did, she gave me the entire Zoom recording and she sent it to my email. So I have the whole entire thing. So in 2 years, or 1 year, I guess, I don't know when in 2025, she did say it was going to be like towards the end. She said it's before I turn 33. So I'm turning 32. It's while I'm 32. Yes. Yeah. So I'm turning 32 in August. And some point in my 32nd year, I will meet this husband, according to her. But I have the entire like hour and a half long recording to listen back to. But yeah, I wanted to tell you guys about the experience because clearly it changed my life for the better or for the worse. I don't know yet. Stay tuned and don't ask me for the psychic's information because I'm not going to send it. I'm not sending it until we find out if she's legit, guys. I don't want you guys all doing this and then thinking that your mom's going to die. That's horrible. And I need to stop thinking about that. The rest of it, as a whole, it really was like positive. Like they were all positive things. Like she was like, you're going to have a lot of money. You're going to get famous. You're going to have beautiful children. You need to be carefree. Like as a whole, it was nice to hear. If that affects my life in a positive way, fine. I'm cool with psychics that way. She didn't say anything scary. Let me know your thoughts. DM me, comment, tell me everything. Tell me if you would want to know. Tell me if you wouldn't want to know. Tell me if it would freak you out or if it would change your life or change your actions and decisions. I don't know. Or let me know if you think I'm crazy. It was $85. I enjoyed an hour and a half of my life. And now I have something fun to talk about at parties. But yeah, thank you for listening to my little story. I will see you guys next episode. Please follow Vulnerable Pod on Instagram. I'm trying to get all my loyal stans over there. I'm posting all my podcast clips over there now. Sometimes I still post on Chelsea Vaughn, but mostly Vulnerable Pod. And subscribe on YouTube, Vulnerable Pod. And find me on TikTok, Vulnerable Pod. Love you guys. See you next episode. Bye.